We finished the heel turn. Now we're going to do the heel flap. Here's my oversized sock sample to show you. So now we're going to work our way up along the edge of the gusset, connecting the flap to the gusset. Eventually, we're going to get rid of the 2 purl stitches before we continue knitting the leg part of the sock. All right, now that we know where we're going, we're ready to begin. We will take off the needle stopper here. Let's take a look what we have. Here's the instep, here's the gusset, 2 purl stitches, and then 12 increases. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And this here is my heel flap. Okay, so now every last stitch of the heel flap will connect and be knitted together with the first stitch of the gusset. Okay, here we go. We're going to undo the last stitch of the heel flap. We'll put it over the stitch that's the gusset. I will open them up. I like to have the heel flap stitch on top, and I just knit them together like this. Why do I like that? When I do that, the finishing looks like this. There are no gaps, and I have a nice straight line up. So now I'm going to use my needle from the heel flap, and I'm going to knit these 2 together. Going to turn my work. I will slip this stitch. I will purl. You may want to have 1 needle for the heel flap. I find it easier to manage when I split it like this. Here's my last stitch. Now this last stitch needs to be worked with the first stitch of the gusset. So I'll remove my needle stopper. I will put this last stitch of the heel flap together with the first stitch of the gusset that's coming my way, and I will purl these 2 together. Now I turn my work, slip the first stitch. If this happens, it might because you're trying to keep things tight. Don't panic. If you don't panic, there's very little chance that you're going to unravel your work. So just pick it up, redo it, and continue on. Usually, if something slips off your needle, if you just calmly stop and take a look, it'll be easy to put your knitting needle right through the stitch loop smoothly and move on like it hasn't happened. Come to the last stitch of the heel flap. I take this stitch and the next stitch of the gusset. Want to make sure they're not twisted. I knit them together. I turn my work and I purl. I come to the last stitch of the heel flap here. Take that stitch, put it together with the first stitch of the gusset that's coming my way, and purl them together and turn my work. Slip the first stitch and work my way across. Come to the last stitch of the flap here. Knit it together with the next gusset stitch and turn the work. And of course, there are various styles of heel turns and heel flaps when you're doing sock projects. This is one of the ways that I have found works for this design really well. In other projects, we will learn other designs, but if you'd like to mix and match them and experiment, please feel free to do that. I want to encourage you to feel free and empowered to create your own socks. As you do that, following any pattern that you really like will be even more fun. Okay, here's that last stitch again. Purl it with the gusset stitch that's first coming to you here. And turn your work. Slip the first stitch. Work across. last stitch, work it together with the next gusset stitch. You can see here how we're nicely coming up the line. Slip the first stitch and purl. The last stitch, put the two together, purl them together, and turn your work. Slip the first stitch, knit across, the last stitch, knit it together with the next gusset stitch, turn your work, slip the first one and then purl, the last stitch, work it together with the next gusset stitch, turn your work, slip the first, the last stitch, work it together with the gusset, turn your work. The last stitch. Turn your work. Slip the first one. Work across. The last stitch. You can stop to admire this beautiful line coming up. Slip the first stitch. Here's the last one. You already know by now what to do. There were 12 increases, so we have to do this at least 12 times. And then 2 more times for the purl stitches, but I will show you that will be a little different. Always slip the first stitch after you turn your work. That way we don't create gaps. You don't necessarily need to use these needle stoppers, but this set of knitting needles that I'm using is very short and they're very helpful. When I'm using little longer needles, they're at least 6.5 inches, then I usually don't use the needle stoppers. As I mentioned earlier, there are quite a few different styles for the heel section of the sock, especially when we knit toe up. Here we are showing one of them. I would love to know in the comments about your favorite styles and what you like about them. I'd love to know if you give this one a try, if it works out for you, if you find it comfortable to wear or not. I found it to be very comfortable to wear and very nicely finished without too many things to fix with the sewing needle. Only 4 more, this one and 3 more. If you're wondering if you could adjust this style to have the reinforced heel flap where you slip one, knit one on the front and purl all on the back, yes, you can definitely do that if you like that reinforcement on the heel flap. Remember, whenever we are starting the next row while working the heel flap, we slip the first stitch, and the last one is always worked with the next gusset stitch. Here we are doing the last of the gusset stitch decreases. We turn. You see now we have these two purl. We're starting to work our way around. We're going to slip. Now we want to go one time all the way around from the middle of the heel. So I need to get back to the middle of the heel. To help me remember that now the beginning of the round will start to be here in the middle of the heel. I'm going to place the stitch marker. It's going to stay here. I'm not going to move it. It's going to stay here. So that's why I did it around the stitch below. I just wanted to remind me when I have finished around. So now I'm starting the first time around. This is the transition to the leg part of the sock. I come to this last stitch and I want to get rid of one of these purl stitches. So I'm going to knit the last stitch of the heel flap and this purl stitch together. Now here I'm going to take this purl stitch over, take the next knit stitch. I put them back in reverse order on my needle so that purl is behind that knit stitch, and now I knit them together. And I continue now on with my round. Take off this needle stopper. I knitted one too many. Okay, so here's my knit and purl. I work them together coming from this side. Now I have this purl stitch which I need to work together with the next knit stitch. So I put them together, then I put purl behind the knit. You can see how I'm putting them. Purl behind the knit on this needle. And now I work them together. Now I continue to the end of this needle. And that's my first round of transitioning to the leg of the sock. We have come through the hardest part of the sock. We have finished these difficult parts. You've learned a lot in the process. The next video will take us into the leg, and the video after that will be cuff. Then we will be ready for finishing touches. So as you finish this video, think about the cuff and whether you want more color or just single color up the leg.